All right, y'all. I want to say hi, but I just came across this video not too long ago, and it actually talks about exactly what it says here in the description. Klaus Schwab announced his new plan to rule the world. So at any given time, you can go in and just check it out when you're bored or whatever. Maybe look over the same thing that I've looked over, or if you like, you can take this video that I'm making a copy of, along with other compiled, proof or support that there are new plans on the way. And I'm gonna show you here. This was done just November 19th, 4 days ago, and it's already got 32,000 likes with more than 500,000 views. So, it's a lot of people that are out here that are up on stuff like this. So if you're not up on it, it'd be nice for you to go check it out and, be up on it. So I'm gonna go ahead and let it play.
In order to join.
So can I just ask, who the hell elected Klaus Schwab? Did you? Did anybody in our chat elect Klaus Schwab? Today's sponsor is Moomoo. More about them at the end of today's video. Let's talk about what's going on at the G20. It's like World Economic Forum has invaded the G20. So the G20 leaders, these are people who are mostly elected. Right.
They are supposed to be elected.
They're supposed to be elected, right, when you go to the G20. Except if you're Bill Gates and Klaus Schwab and some of these other guys.
It's specifically an intergovernmental forum. Yeah. And so you are...
So you're supposed to be elected, but people like Bill Gates, who happens to end up being the leader, speaker, they're not elected. A little weird. But I'll go ahead and press play.
Supposed to be an elected leader in order to join.
So can I just ask, who the hell elected Klaus Schwab? Did you? Did anybody in our chat elect Klaus Schwab? Did anybody elect Bill Gates? So they get to go and they get to lay out policy. What you really see is the supreme leader just showed up to deliver a speech. And they basically announced the new world order. The G20, here's your ruler, Klaus Schwab. Forget the Great Reset, right? We've heard about the Great Reset, which is already in motion, is actively in motion. It's not a conspiracy theory at all. In fact, they wrote about it, promoted it, talked about it, and are actively unfolding the Great Reset. Now, though, the big roadblock and what his big concern is a new phrase called the Great Segmentation. The Great Segmentation. That's a big problem for Klaus Schwab, and this is why we are going to now need to move more towards a unipolar order where we have one unelected leader ruling everything. That's basically what he's asking for. Watch this.
If you had a choice, would you rather pay $12 for this cheese grater on Amazon or pay less than $2 on Alibaba for the exact same thing? Well, believe it or not.
Of course, if you look at all the challenges, we can speak about the multi-crisis. Economic, political, social, and ecological, and institutional crisis. But actually, what we have to confront is a deep, systemic, and structural restructuring of our world. And this will take some time. And the world will look differently after we have gone through this transition process. Politically, the driving forces for this political transformation, of course, is the transition into a multipolar world, which has a tendency to make our world much more fragmented. And for these reasons, events like this one, the G20, and so on, are the very important connectors to avoid a too great segmentation.
Too great the segmentation. So a segmentation.
Wasn't there, if memory serves, I'm 52 now. Well, I'm still 51, but I'm going to be 52. If memory serves, wasn't there another German person that wanted to kind of take over the world at one point in history?
Yeah, you're right.
Because that kind of sounds like this.
I don't think you were alive during that German person.
No, I don't think I was
52
alive, but
doesn't,
I think they're still
the math doesn't add up to that. You're still a baby.
So that's the great problem, right? The problem to Klaus Schwab's mind is that you as a sovereign country are in his way.
What happened to the woke left telling us diversity is a strength? Why is fragmentation a bad thing?
Because it gets in the way of their climate initiatives, right? Which is to get you off of eating meat, which moves us to a carbon neutral environment.
A synthetic existence.
A synthetic existence where your country maybe grew up, for hundreds of years, grew cotton or grew soybeans or grew coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're going to tell you that under this new unipolar order, you're not going to grow soybeans. You're not going to grow coffee anymore because we've already figured that out. That's going to happen over here in Minnesota, in the United States, so it's not going to happen in your country anymore. Now, what you are going to do in your country is you are going to make, T-shirts or something. That's what's going to happen. We're going to make this unipolar economy.
That is quite literally the dystopic setting for the Hunger Games.
And that's what's happening. You're witnessing in action. Just look at what's happening in the Netherlands farmers, the Dutch farmers right now. Look what's happening in New Zealand with the farmers.
Yeah, District 12, you are coal miners. District 10, you're clothes makers.
Right.
Yeah, exactly right.
So stop doing these other things, and you just need to stick to the coal mining.
It's like Alex Jones used to call this stuff out, and it was happening in secret. They were having secret meetings, and there was all this stuff going on, and he's like, we're going to their meetings, we're trying to shine light on them. But now, they're just outright doing it out in public. They don't give a shit anymore. They're just out here telling us their plan, and there are people backing it up.
Yeah, not even just backing it up, that sounds like a kind of a fun idea. No, they're actively doing it, and not even just backing it up, actively putting it in place. I mean, all you need to do is just look at what the Democrats just passed with this Inflation Reduction Act. There's nothing about inflation reduction. All it is a big wet kiss for the World Economic Forum and this whole plan.
Yes, it's expensive. It will come at the expense of a lot of GDP. And so my question is, who's he talking to that doesn't already know this agenda? Is he saying things for us where we're like, oh, that sounds good, everyone lives in harmony, we like that, we don't want to be fragmented? Or is he talking to the leaders in the room who are like, yeah, say this, massage this message so that we can implement it? What's it for?
That's a good question. I mean, because he's not most people who, you're watching this show, so hopefully you are awakened. You're understanding, these are the stories we follow. The mainstream media doesn't cover this. The mainstream media does not cover what the World Economic Forum is doing to people. They do not cover it. They cover it up. They're part of it. They're mouthpieces of it. Heck, Bloomberg Television has a whole green thing that they do. They have Bloomberg Green, and they are literally interviewing people as part of this. They're part of it. It's all part of it. So I don't know who they're talking to.
Sometimes, I was gonna say, is to save their asses. I think sometimes in the middle of the night they might do a blog post, or they might do a little segment in a show, so that if anybody ever is like, CNN, you didn't do, they'd be like, no, well, we did. It's on page 97 of our blog down at the bottom.
Right.
In the middle of the night.
I don't know.
Who's in the audience, right?
Well,
is Biden there taking notes?
Anthony Blinken. Well, Biden's falling asleep. Biden's asleep during this. He fell asleep.
Although, how old is he now? He's 73, 74?
Biden?
Yeah.
Isn't he 78 or 76?
78. So for a man like that to travel to Bali and change so many time zones, that's really hard on the body. And so the fact that he didn't show up to that dinner last night, there's part of me, I feel jet lag like an actual pain. You think of adding 40 years,
Well, so who knows who he's talking to? Is he talking? Well, let's unpack that a little bit more, because is he putting it out there? Is he saying this so that we all can say, wait a minute, these guys aren't doing this in secret. They're not secretly. It's all out there. It's available. We all had an opportunity to ring in on this. Are they doing it so we are able to go and look at this stuff? It's all on their website, by the way. When you go to their website, they daily post about this stuff. It's all right there. How they want us debanked, how they want us eating, how they want us to try to eat protein of insects. It's all on their website. This isn't conspiracy. Like, it's there, right in front of you. You can read it in black and white on the World Economic Forum's website. You can read these things in the G20's minutes and what their meeting plans are. It's all right there.
Okay, actually, in the chat, they point out he'll be 80 next week.
Biden?
Yeah, his birthday is November 20th, so over the weekend he will turn 80. So I was way off.
So why are Bill Gates and Klaus Schwab at the G20? Here's a tweet about this, good from James Melville. It says, no one voted for these guys. And anyone who asks this question should not be dismissed as a conspiracy theorist. It's a totally legitimate question to ask. Why is he driving this policy? Why are we giving over sovereign powers to these people? This is what's happening right before our eyes. Remember, and he was telling us just recently, remember, unless we're all vaccinated, no one will be safe. These are his words, watch.
I think one lesson which we take out of this crisis is this notion of mutual interdependence. Because even as individuals, we had to take care not to infect someone else and not to be infected. And the same we have to apply now on a global level. As long as not everybody is vaccinated, nobody will be safe.
Nobody will be safe. Nobody will be safe.
Wait, how old is that?
That's a few months ago.
Well, it had to be during the pandemic.
Okay.
Right.
Which, to their mind, is still going on. So it's, yeah.
Right. I just was trying to figure out if that was like recently, like he's saying that like it's still, that much of a threat to them.
But they absolutely want this to be the case. I mean, they're not hiding the fact that they want you to be actively up on getting a regular flu booster, COVID booster every year as part of your plan now. And this is actively what they're doing. But I just want to unpack this like great segmentation piece, because when you have China focusing on sovereignty, you have Russia focusing on their sovereignty and making sure that they are self-sustaining
Yes.
with their minerality. Think about what they're doing with uranium, right? So the United States gets 50% of its nuclear power enriched uranium from Russia. 20% of all power in the United States is nuclear power. So all of the nuclear power either comes from Kazakhstan or Russia. So Russia enriches all of it and then hands it to the United States, sells it to the United States. They do all of it, all multiple processes. They do the discovery of it, the exploration, they pull it out of the ground, they enrich it, they refine it, they use it, and then they also sell it. We don't do any of that. So this idea of the unipolar is already unfolded. The United States has outsourced all of its industry, all of its industrialization. We're already seeing the deindustrialization of Europe as part of this plan. Outsource it. Outsource the pieces that we don't want here, right? Take away the farms in the Netherlands.
Yes.
The greatest food producers in the world, second greatest food producers in the world, right? Or maybe isn't the Netherlands the number one food producer in the world?
Ranked how? What do you mean, by volume?
By volume of food production.
Or efficiency?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I don't know if it's number one or number two.
McDonald's, but
So this is a roadblock for them then. If these countries want to say, no, we want our sovereignty, we want to protect our own people.
Yes.
We want to go local, and we want to do what's good for our own people.
Well, in fact, last week in the Washington Post, I believe, or the Washington Post, there was an article from the Prime Minister of Nigeria who had said, here, G20, is how you don't talk about oil and climate crisis in Africa. Don't tell us we can't use our own resources. Don't tell us that we have to suffer while you continue to consume, that we need to start to conserve resources when we're starting to build up our quality of life. We're not going to give that up so that you can continue your quality of life. Don't speak that way. And I thought it was a brilliant piece because that is what, so many of these wealthy countries say, well, the big polluters are, India and China, and it's not us, it's them. We should be able to sustain our form of living, and they need to learn to be cleaner. Well, they can only be cleaner by an increase in GDP. That's irrefutable. And so this idea of fragmentation you see now is going to be, yes, you're right, China, Russia, they're like, we're going to worry about ourselves. And Africa is absolutely moving in that direction, and that is a threat to these Western leaders who have attended the G20.
Well, you saw that the other day with India, right? So Biden flies into the G20, makes this deal with India about coal. Like, we're going to provide this if you get rid of coal production.
Yeah.
You know, because we want your country to go through these changes, and so that that you stop producing coal, and then now where are you going to get this? Where are you going to get your fuel? How are you
We
going to power?
don't want you to have easily accessible, and coal is awful for humans. It's awful for the planet. There are so many other cleaner energies, but you can't just take away what people have. If you give them affordable energy, they actually use that energy in order to build cleaner energies.
Right, imagine nuclear power plants, right? There we go. Like, actually...
This is undebatable. When people start to increase their quality of living and their income levels, they stop cooking in enclosed spaces, which is bad for their lungs, and they start to invest on healthier options for electricity and energy. These things are true. The data tells us this. So people who are, being brats and like destroying things around European art galleries, they don't understand that they're actually advocating for poor people to live a harder life in order for wealthier people to continue to have electric Wi-Fi connected toothbrushes.
Right.
And not ever skip a beat. And it's incredibly elitist.
Well, another elitist moment happened yesterday, too, at the G20. This was an amazing moment. So there's a lot of, really interesting moments happening at the G20. This one was caught on camera, and boy, I'm sure the Justin Trudeau government is not happy that this was caught on camera. So a few days ago, a short time ago, Justin Trudeau sat down with Xi Jinping of China and had a private conversation. It was an off-the-record conversation. It was not meant to be leaked to the press. So what did Justin Trudeau do? He and his lackeys then released what was discussed between he and Xi, to the press.
I like that.
But they didn't give an accurate representation of the speech. In fact, they lied to the newspaper, so that the newspaper runs basically a hit piece on Xi Jinping and tries to make Justin Trudeau, appear in favorable light. So it was garbage. What was actually said was not accurate. And so Justin Trudeau runs into Xi Jinping at the G20, and this, I transcribed it for you. This amazing moment happened. Watch.
Wow.
Everything we discuss is a leak to the paper, that's not a book.
而且我们也不是那样尽情对话。
And that's not all the way the conversation was
如
conducted.
果有诚心，咱们就以互相尊重的态度来进行谈好。
If there is
否则这个结果就不好说了。
sincerity on your part, free and open and frank dialogue, and that is what we will continue to have. We will continue to look to work constructively together, but there will be things we will disagree on, and we will have.
创造条件，创造条件。
Let's create the conditions first.
I just watch him walk away with his tail between his legs, like...
I don't know where to go. I just got dressed down by Xi
No, he
Jinping.
leaves to go in private because he needs to recover from that, because that was a spanking.
It was a spanking. She's like, so what we talked about, you leaked it to the newspapers, and it wasn't an accurate representation of our conversation. That's inappropriate. Like, when do you ever get to see a world leader? It reminds me of the movie Love Actually. Why that one scene with Hugh Grant and Billy Bob Thornton? Billy Bob Thornton plays the American president.
Right.
Hugh Grant plays the British prime minister. And he says, this relationship is actually not very good for us.
Yeah.
We'll be better about not having bullies in our own house. Like, that moment never happens, and everyone cheered, right? That doesn't happen ever. It's always cordial. We don't hear about it, right? Here we get to watch him get dressed down in public by the leader of China.
It's incredibly authentic. Like, I can't talk to you because you betrayed me last time and you leaked our conversation to the press and not in an authentic way. So next time, we're going to have some ground rules when we talk.
So people
Got
in the
it,
chat,
son?
People in the chat saying, please play that again. Please play that again. Yes, I want to see it again too.
You can find it on our Twitter feed, actually. So if you want to share it around yourself, you can go to twitter.com. Or is it Redacted Inc.?
The Redacted INC is our Twitter feed.
Yes.
The Redacted INC. Come over and follow us on Twitter there. So we shared it out. Please retweet it. Yes, I added the subtitles. It's not, I cut out some of the stupid stuff where where they're talking over each other, but just the important parts I made sure we had a full transcription of. So.
And his response to that is like, well, we're going to disagree on some things. It's not even relevant, right? If you say to someone, we had a private conversation and you violated my trust, and he's like, well, and he's referring to the content of the conversation, like, yes, we'll disagree sometimes.
Right.
It's like, that's not what I'm
We're going
saying.
to disagree because we're going to put private conversations out publicly. Like, we might disagree on that.
Yeah, next time we talk, there'll be some ground rules, kid.
Right.
Bye.
So let's watch this again.
Everything we discuss is leaked to the paper. That's not appropriate.
而且我们也不是那样进行的。
And that's not all the way the conversation was
如果有诚心，咱们就相
It's like Ricky Bobby didn't know what to do with his hands, but this guy doesn't know what to do with his body.
That's the wrong, I think is it Ricky Bobby? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with my hands.
That's right.
But the other thing is, I wanted to say is about the Canada part of this, where he says, in Canada, we believe in fair, free, and open dialogue, which I wanted to say,
Between world leaders, aren't there plenty of secret things you told us that we can't see?
well, yeah, and by the way, you're actively looking to censor your own people. Like, that's literally part of your plan right now. Like, your administration is actively censoring people in Canada. So, we in Canada believe in fair, free, and open dialogue? No, you don't. You believe in dialogue that you get to
Control.
that you get to control and put out. You don't want a back and forth. And clearly, if it comes back and forth, then we're going to put out a misrepresentation of what you just said. I thought you were against misinformation, Justin. I thought you were against disinformation, Justin. I guess so he releases a fake version of a transcript to the newspapers. It's okay for some people to release disinformation, just not the rest of us.
There's something about, I'm never really that good at conflict when I'm with somebody in person, unless it's you.
Why are you good with conflict with me?
But for people I'm not familiar with, I take lesson from this, because he just kind of calmly said, this is not appropriate, you betrayed me, and next time we're going to have ground rules, and walked away. And I am taking notes on how to say what you mean authentically and not get awkward and uncomfortable and then just walk away. So thank you for that, President Xi Jinping.
Yeah, Xi, thank you for teaching my wife how to conduct an argument.
I mean, sometimes we'll have, there's a contractor coming and Clayton's like, did they fix this thing? And I was like, I don't know, I let him go. He's like, what? Because I cannot confront people about anything.
It took us 3 months for him to get here. We took all this scheduling, and then the one thing he was supposed to fix, you just let him go home.
Because I can't.
I just didn't want to pressure him into it. I mean, that was the job.
Yeah, I'm total
He had
crap
one
about
job.
That. So
Think he's not going to pressure us into paying him?
I come downstairs and there's still water dripping through the roof. I'm like,
but they came.
that was the one thing.
All right, y'all. This is the second video that I pulled up again on the Klaus Schwab speech at the G20 meeting. This is just another example. I have not watched this video yet, but I'm going to go ahead and press record because, again, all it talks about is this full speech.
Excellencies, distinguished participants of this very important meeting, let me first congratulate the government, the President government of Indonesia for exercising such a great hospitality for all of us who are here. I would also like to express my admiration for the quality of the preparation of this B20 meeting. It reminds me, actually, in 2010, I proposed to the chair of the G20 at that time, the Korean chairmanship, to integrate a strong business dimension into the deliberations of the G20, because I deeply believe into the multi-stakeholder concept, which means we all have to work together. Corporations, of course, governments, civil society, to address the big issues in our world. Let me just make 4 remarks related to generating growth through innovation. First, of course, if we look at all the challenges, we can speak about a multi-crisis, an economic, a political, a social, an ecological, an institutional crisis. But actually, what we have to confront is a deep, systemic, and structural restructuring of our world. And this will take some time. And the world will look differently after we have gone through this transition process. Politically, the driving forces for this political transformation, of course, is the transition into a multipolar world, which has a tendency to make our world much more fragmented. And for these reasons, events like this one, the G20, and so on, are the very important connectors to avoid a too great segmentation, I would say blocization instead of globalization of our world. If you look at the economic transformation forces, I just would like to mention 4. The energy transition which we need, and where Indonesia is playing a very important role. Second, the reshaping of our supply chains, where Indonesia can play a very important role. Then I would also say the integration of external costs. Just look at plastics. 10 billion tons a year of plastics are moving into our oceans. And for this reason, I'm so pleased that on the occasion of this G20, B20 meeting, we can announce and inaugurate an O20 to take better care of our oceans. But in addition to the reshaping of our supply chains, of the energy transformation, of internalization of external costs, we also see the consequences of militarization of our economies. Now, this all means, at least at the beginning, a cost burden. Now, if you restructure a company, you write off the costs, and of course, the shareholders are suffering. If you restructure an economy, the result is a reduction of income, of disposable income, which can lead to extensive social tensions, which we see in our world developing now. How do we deal with this transition, which may last for several years? Not just applying crisis management, not just reacting, but constructing the future with a purpose. We should use this transition time with a clear concept of what we want to achieve, how we want to come out of this transition time. We want to come out as a more sustainable, more resilient, and more inclusive world. Now, my second point relates to the fourth industrial revolution the minister mentioned. When I wrote the book about the fourth industrial revolution and conceptualized the idea of this revolution, I described 23 technologies. And at that time, only 5 years ago, many of those technologies were considered science fiction. Today, they all have become realities and new technologies we have to deal with. Quantum technology, the metaverse, and I'm very proud that Indonesia is again one of the countries which wants to ride at the forefront of those developments of the fourth industrial revolution. What makes the fourth industrial revolution different? 3 things. First, it's the scope. Contrary to earlier technological innovation, it doesn't deal with 1 or 2 innovations. It's a whole panoply of technologies which interact and which completely will change how we produce, how we consume, how we communicate. But the second element is the speed. And if you look at technological revolutions, it usually goes in the form of an S-curve. And just now, we are at the inflection point to exponential development. And technology will change completely what we are doing at this present time. And not only what we are doing, and that's another change, it will change and it will have an impact on even who we are. Just look how even the internet has changed to a certain extent our identities over the last 20 years. I'm very proud that the Forum is also at the forefront of those new technologies, and we will showcase, even here in the context of our presentation of the Ocean 20 initiative, how you can use the metaverse in order to create much deeper and much more extensive and comprehensive global dialogues. My additional third point, the third difference which we see in the fourth industrial revolution is the fact that the winners take it all. Contrary to the previous industrial revolutions, it's very difficult